Hello everyone, I'm the Burgess Cat, and today I'm joined by Michael.
Hi.
And we are in the same room today.
Yeah, for once.
Sitting a bit weirdly across the table.
Burgess, you don't need to tell people we're sitting weirdly.
Today we're doing a little special video where we're talking about the Skyrim Gamejam and what they implemented over the past few months in the DLC.
Yeah, it's kind of a end of year review, so Bethesda, we're on your backs.
The first thing that was added was seasonal foliage, which as the months in Skyrim changed, the trees, plants and all would grow, die, etc.
And it looked really good, and it made it feel more like real world.
But Michael, was this added?
No.
So what rating does it get?
Not added, not implemented. 1 out of 10 would not buy.
Next thing they did in the game jam was a flow-based water shooter, which made the water look more realistic and actually flow like real water would.
Yeah, and it just once more added just more reality to the game world.
Was it added, Michael?
Nope.
Well,
not even to the PC version, but obviously PC. It's probably because the PlayStation version is just buggy in general.
Yeah.
And the Xbox version, well polished, but I don't know how much more the Xbox could handle if they tried to add in the wee graphical tweaks and all that made it process a lot more.
Unless they could make it more efficient than what they already had, doubtful.
Yeah, so just for the sake of making money, which is understandable, Bethesda, you're tailoring to the majority of the audience you can, rather than to the PC elite.
But you know the regular water in the game?
Yeah.
Doesn't it already push stuff around, kind of like realistic water? Yeah. So
it's good.
It shouldn't be that hard. It shouldn't be that intense to add it, but maybe.
I think it's graphical more.
The next thing that they showed in the game jam was spears.
Yep, Burgess and me disagree over whether or not this was implemented. In
the Dragonborn DLC, they added things called Reiklings, and they have Reikling spears, but you fire them from your bow.
They're arrows. They're arrows that don't go far and do a little more damage. That's it.
At least they're a bit different. Like, they've got a massive drop-off compared to every other arrow. Like, whenever I'm using just regular arrows, I can't tell which one I'm using. I don't know whether I'm wasting gold or I'm wasting iron, wasting steel.
Don't get me wrong, they look cool. But they're not arrows and they're not spears. They're sticks with pointy things on the end that you fire at things. The spears in the game jam are clearly superior. They're more like the Morrowind spears.
And it does a big sort of Jedi twist with it as well, a flail. The next thing that was added, and actually was added in a title update, was it? Or was it added in the first DLC?
It was just an update.
It was in a title update for all platforms, and it added kill cams for magic and also range combat.
Yeah. Which
was very awesome since I always use a bow and I could never get any kill cam whenever I was doing stealth or anything. It was kind of shitty looking.
Personally I'm an archer myself as well, because I love being a stealthy character. And I think it's about time, especially for magic as well, because it's the sort of thing that you wouldn't expect there to be kill cams for, so it's a nice little...
Yeah, it doesn't look as good as arrows or just regular melee combat, but I think I've only seen a kill cam once for magic whenever I was actually using myself, since I would summon stuff, if anything.
I don't play with magic, so I wouldn't know. The only magic spell I ever use is the healing spell you're given at the start of the game. But for range combat, there's nothing more satisfying than seeing that headshot of someone really far away just drop.
Okay, so let's unpause the video and look at the next 5 features. Right, and so we're back. The next thing that they showed in the game jam was assassin enhancements and stealth enhancements. One of them being water arrows,
which can be used to extinguish torches.
Not sure how they'd work if you were attacking enemies with it though.
No, but it makes sense for things like, well, if they'd implemented it better, the Dark Brotherhood questline. If it was anything like the Oblivion Dark Brotherhood questline, they would be very useful.
Is there any monsters in Skyrim that would hurt more, kind of like burn their skin? Like a vampire or something? Well,
I suppose if you dipped it in holy water, you know. And they talked about, but they never fully explained a thing called Assassin's Vision.
Which is a bit... In the video, it looks a bit like Detect Life or Detect Undead.
Yeah, which makes very little sense.
Are they shouts or are they spells? There's one that is a shout that you can just press and it lets you see people for a while. But
yeah, but that is just a shout way around people who don't use magic, because Detect Life has always been a spell.
Yeah.
In all the Elder Scrolls. The next one that we're going to implement kind of defeats the point of water arrows.
Guards can relight darkened areas.
Which makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. But see, it's a good little thing to add to the world because it makes it seem more alive.
Yeah.
But it would, like I said, defeat the purpose of water arrows. But I suppose it could be used to distract a guard by putting out a torch, them having to go over and relight it, and you sneak past them whilst they're doing that.
But I think more things like that need to be added. Like, they couldn't just add that thing. There needs to be more stealth mechanics like that.
It couldn't be just Burke is here wanting to pretend that he was Metal Gear Skyrim, sneaking about, making guards go places.
Another thing they showed was paralysis runes,
which sound like a good idea, because I always thought that whenever I first heard of Skyrim and they talked about the runes, I thought personally one of the things I love in the Elder Scrolls is going for a hunt, you know, because I'm weird like that. I roleplay, you know, one of the old breed. So I would love to use paralysis runes by actually chasing after something into a trap where there is deliberately a paralysis rune, and then
paralysis.
And kill it. What is paralysis?
I would say paralysis.
That's because you're more American.
They've got the frost shout. What do you call it? That encases people on ice. That's kind of the same effect. I don't know if they've got a spell of it.
I know what you mean, but I just
it's a trap.
I meant as a trap for tactical hunting, or even can you imagine if we were adding all these? You put a paralysis rune underneath a torch, then you use a water arrow to put out the torch, then guard comes over to relight the torch. Paralyzed guard.
But it's probably whenever you cast a rune in Skyrim, does it alert people?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, that would work. That would work really well. That'd be a great enhancement. Next thing were dungeon enhancements, like hanging platforms and moving platforms. What do you make of this?
I think it's a good idea, especially moving platforms for maybe dwarven dungeons, because they're meant to be a very technologically advanced people.
Yeah.
And it makes sense that they have things which move. And it would finally be Bethesda doing something kind of new with their engine. Because they can't even climb ladders in Bethesda's engines. So
which I don't get at all. It should be. It should be.
I know, but Todd did say that they've, well, at least with the old engine, which this is basically just a rehash of. He said he's tried, he can't.
They could do some crappy Call of Duty ladder climb where you just float up to the top. It doesn't have to be Battlefield where you actually lock on and grab on.
But it's immersion, Burgess.
What was I going to say there? The moving platforms, it looked kind of weird the way it's sort of like a triangle shape, the platform mix to the rope, and then it moves up. I don't think it fits in that well. A bit of work could have been done to it.
It reminded me of aspects of the most recent Zelda games.
Yeah.
And although, you know, people would say, oh, they're both fantasy games, I'm not sure it would fit Skyrim quite as well as it would fit something like Zelda. It's not the same.
If it was I think if it was in the Dwarven style, as you said, it would work, but the rope and wood sort of...
makes no sense.
Yeah, it looks stupid. The other thing they were going to add to dungeons, and did add in Dawngaurd.
Dragonborn, I think.
No, it was in Dawngaurd, I think, just in the main story you encountered it. It was water currents in dungeons. It wasn't actually a puzzle or anything, it was just you happened to get dragged along by water through this dungeon, and that was it.
Yeah, it would make sense.
A short 10-second appearance, really.
Yeah, it would make sense if you had water currents and you had to maybe the water currents were being pumped once more in a dwarven dungeon, and you had to use the water currents to travel to one area to activate something, and that would change the water current, travel to another area, activate something there, and then, you know, combine the two to get to the final location that you want to get to.
Well, let's unpause the video and watch the next 5 more things.
Okay.
Okay, and we're back. The next enhancement was also to dungeons. It was dark dungeons. I don't think this would be a great idea, because if you were new to the game and a bit stupid, you probably wouldn't know to either cast a spell or bring out a torch.
But I think it would be a great...
For veteran players,
yeah,
etc.
it'd be a great addition for those people that love... Something that Skyrim's missing is just kill dungeons. Or you just want to kill things. And it'd be a great thing for... I don't know... I know you personally, Marcus, haven't played the Twilight Princess.
Nope.
No, but Zelda's famous for having dungeons which have about 50 levels, and each level gets harder and harder and harder. But once you get to the last level, you get something really, really special. And like for Twilight Princess, it unlocked great fairies at every spring, and they fully regenerate your health and allow you to collect fairies and all, which fully regenerate your health whenever you die. So that, just the very idea of dark dungeons is reminiscent to me of one of those dungeons which is just there to see how long you can survive. I like the idea. It makes sense, because why would every cave be fully lit up?
You'd probably like rogue games, so you would.
I would.
You just go around killing stuff, like Diablo. Have you tried it? Or
I don't
kind of like it?
I am a role player, like I said, as well, so it's a bit of clash, but I like the idea of having at least 4 of the players that do love moshing. One
thing I want added to dungeons, and you know, just general, what do you call them, crypts and tombs and things, is quests. Like the quests where there's a person waiting outside the dungeon and then goes in with you, and you know, something happens or something like that. Those are my favourite dungeons, rather than just generic go in and kill the boss, get the shout. Like the man whose friend was attacked by a bear. Yeah. So you have to go in and see if he's still alive. And one of them, you come back out again, and the guy's actually evil. Yeah. Or even in the one they showed in the very first... What was it? It was just a random section of gameplay from Skyrim, the first 20 minutes or so. Yeah. It was the dude in the spider web. Yeah. Him. I like that kind of stuff. Yeah, I think... Unique. Bethesda, with Skyrim in general, I know we're getting a bit off track here, but they generalize too much with their quests, whereas Oblivion, okay, the world wasn't as well designed, and the game mechanics certainly weren't as well designed, but some of the quests were really well written, and it was usually the quests I enjoyed most in Oblivion were the random side quests that had no relevance to any overarching story. But I suppose in Skyrim it has to be efficient, it's more bulk over quality, but just them empty dungeons that are just generic, that if we still play them and we still go through them, so it still gives us that play count entertainment value. I would give Bethesda more props than Skyrim for actually varying their dungeons enough to make me still want to play them, because if you'd seen one dungeon in Oblivion, you'd seen them all. Especially, what's that? Right, we never remember the name, but off to the very east of Skyrim, there is a dwarven ruin. Go there, and there's a glowing ball thing, and see what happens. You actually have to go there in one of the quests, so you do. In Dawngaurd? Yeah, I think in Dawngaurd. We didn't have to in the... actually, the quest in Dawngaurd, it's one of them random quests, what do you call it? Randomly assigns you. Yeah, and that's one of the places you go to, and I just happened to get it, so I you love that dungeon. I reloaded my save a few times and went through it, and then whenever I played through Dawngaurd again, I gotta go back to it again. The next thing that they showed was followers that had commands for allowing you to change the combat style, etc. Like training, in New Vegas. Their equipment, yeah, it was very New Vegas reminiscent. If you get a wife in Skyrim, and can't they become a follower as well? Some of them can. I think you married Mule. Mule, she can become. Yeah, well, I married Ysolda, and she can't. But she has some of those abilities, but yeah, I think that's more because she's your wife. Yeah, it's a good idea. Her boyfriend. It's a good idea that you should be able to turn your follower into something you like, but then again, I suppose that removes some of their individuality. Like my favorite follower, I think, is probably Faendal, and that's just because Is he the archer? Yeah, he's the archer from Riverwood. Yeah, and it's great because actually in my second playthrough, I played the quest, so it was in favour of him. You know, the quest of who wants to marry. Yeah. They both want to marry her, and then I married her. I was just like, oh, sorry, dude. But anyway, I prefer the followers to have a bit of individuality, even, you know, they are computer generated things, but he's an archer, so I shouldn't be able to say, here, stop arching. Stop arching. The next thing was also a new addition to followers, and was the ability set favourites. I think if you put an item, if you set an item as favorite and then give it to them, it still shows up as a favorite, but it's your favorite. It's not actually theirs, isn't it?
Yeah, it's
they do it based on value or damage or something, like just the stats of the weapon, not actually how it performs.
The problem is, if you give a follower a piece of clothing or a piece of armor, they won't equip it. You have to use the console commands to equip it.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of people in the PC community who have been trying to give some of their followers quite skimpy clothing, and they have to use the console commands to do it, and then if you change area, it just unequips it. So therefore, if you were able to set the piece of clothing you gave them as a favourite, they'd wear it. And I suppose that's good for people that want to customise them in that way.
You know the end of Fallout 3, the guy in the coat, Colonel Autumn?
Yes.
I saw some people, and they gave him what do you call the best armor? It's like the Brotherhood of Steel armor, but it's electrified.
But Augustus Autumn's a bad guy.
Yeah, I know. What he did was he went into stealth mode, went in behind him, gave him the armor, and then after he waited 24 hours, he put on the Brotherhood of Steel armor, and then he was able to loot Colonel Autumn's coat.
But there was like different ways to get Colonel Autumn's one. In fact, we're getting off topic. I probably shouldn't
Keep going.
But, you know, wherever you first see him die at the Washington Memorial, no, well, the memorial that has the water thing, right? Whenever Project Purity, yeah. Whenever you go there,
that's the end,
and he dies.
Yeah,
where he isn't actually dead. This is way back, about halfway through the game. Whenever you first go there, it looks like he dies from gas. Yeah,
I don't remember. Well, I really don't.
Well, he fake dies.
Okay.
No, okay. So he's actually in the glass container for Project Purity.
Oh yes, I remember now. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, if you go up to the glass container, and then you go into third-person view, and then you rotate your camera, you can actually access his inventory there.
And does he have his coat on?
Yeah. So I've got two of his coats,
nice,
and two of his guns, and it's just really
so
good.
you did the stealth loot thing at the end as well?
No, I just killed him and took his stuff.
I didn't think you could kill him. I didn't think whenever you killed him, it showed up in his inventory.
Well, I thought I got it. Well, I've got it twice anyway. I'll tell you that much.
Fair enough. I've got like a million sets of the Emperor's clothes.
Yeah, so yeah.
From the fake and all. The next thing was adoption, which they did add in Hearthfire.
Yeah. Well, I haven't played Hearthfire, so Burkus, how well do you think they implemented it?
You can go to an orphanage, you can get some children, they live in your house. One of them's called Roar, which I got because a cat roars, or a big cat roars.
I have one complaint about kids in general in Skyrim.
Can't kill them.
It's not that. It's simply that, you see, the kids in Skyrim, they're all human. Is there no kitty Khajiits?
But there's barely any Khajiits or any other races. It's all
orcs
and human.
The orcs have their own settlements.
Yeah.
You'd expect them to have some kids.
Yeah.
The elves, come on, the Thalmor.
Yeah.
Even you'd expect to have the highest ranking person in the Thalmor in Skyrim in his embassy. You'd expect him to have his wife and his kid, and you'd expect the kid to be a stuck-up, arrogant Thalmor like they all are.
But would they do that because they'd be viewed as evil then? Evil children?
But the Thalmor aren't meant to be evil. They're just meant to be stuck up.
Yeah.
Which they are.
Also in Hearthfire, probably a bit more important than adoption, is the ability to build your own house. Which in the game jam they showed a location that wasn't available. You can only choose from 3 locations in Hearthfire, and I think they added a new one on Dragonborn. You can build one on the island as well.
On Solstheim? Are you positive?
I'm pretty sure, but
I know you can get a house in Solstheim, but I don't know if you can build one.
I thought you could build one, but we'll check that.
Don't let Burkus rumor monger. He likes doing that.
Right, let's watch the next 5 features. Right, and we're back. The next feature that was shown was the ability to have a skeletal butler in your house.
Which they did not implement.
Well, you can have a butler in your house, or, well...
I can't remember his name.
Well, there's a few you can get.
Yeah, but they're like house carls. I can't remember the proper name. House carls. Yeah, house carls. Anyway, Burkus lied. There's only 3 houses. There's not one in Souls. Just thought I'd clear that up.
Unfortunately, I thought there was.
Yeah, well, you think
maybe it's just a new house. That's disappointing.
There definitely is a new house. Anyway, so what do you think of the skeletal butler? I think it's a good idea.
I wouldn't really care, to be honest with you.
But it made me think of Fallout 3 again, and I thought of how class the butler bots that you got in it were, because they came out with funny lines all the time, and I thought
you could get a joke, and then his jokes would come exhausted eventually.
Yeah, I thought the skeleton butler could have. He could have some sort of personality to him, and he could be funny.
I love the house in Fallout. You could do so much on it, like with all the medicine,
really
brewing stands and things.
And then Fallout New Vegas only ever had one house, and it was didn't like that.
Well, was there only one house?
Yeah, it was only the top of the. You could rent other places.
Yeah,
but there was only one place you could own.
Oh, okay, that's disappointing.
Yeah. Next thing was spell combination, which meant that if you had one spell equipped in one hand and another in the other hand, you could combine them and come up with a completely new spell. And I think it's a good idea.
But it wasn't added, so it's irrelevant. In Fable, they had about... Fable 3, you know, they had 3 or 4 spells, and you can combine them together, like wind and fire to create a fire tornado.
Yeah, they only had 3 or 4 spells.
Yeah.
Yeah, whereas Skyrim has... infinite number of spells.
They would need to do it with all spells, I think, that you could combine anything and it would randomly generate a new spell.
I don't know, it would be too hard to implement.
Mm.
Can you imagine each spell actually has a codified effect in the game?
Yeah.
So they'd have to codify new effects.
Yeah,
or else there'd be no point.
They basically have to redesign their spell system so it's open and they only have to write one thing once and then it'll create new ones and it'll...
And you see, that's the problem, because Bethesda redesigned their entire spell system for Skyrim, and everyone was like, wow, this is fantastic, because their old one sucked. I loved Oblivion, I loved Morrowind, but their old spell system sucked completely.
I wonder what would happen if you created like a spell from a healing, and then a fire, and then an electric, and then summon something, and then combine them two. Just infinite spells. The next thing, goblins.
Yeah, goblins were interesting when it came to Oblivion.
Nice googling there, Michael.
A lot of people complained about them. The thing is, I like goblins. I don't know why. I just think that they're a key thing about fantasy. I know that's probably why people complain. Everyone's like, Oblivion's too generic fantasy, so they took them out. But Burkus would argue that they're half implemented because
there's Reiklings in the game, and to me, I'm looking at the goblin image now, that looks like a Reikling to me. It's just the same sort of thing.
But the thing
just a unique name. It's like what do you call the walrus, the horker?
Yeah.
It's the same thing with a different name to me.
But Reiklings have existed since Blood Moon, the Morrowind DLC. And a lot of people actually argued that they were the remnants of the Falmer before we found out what happened to the Falmer.
Yeah.
Everyone thought, well, this is just them. They've become barbaric and small and horrible.
Yeah.
Because no one knew what happened to them at all. It's the same as one of the mobile Elder Scrolls games. I think not Dawnstar, but Mournhold. Yeah,
I don't know.
It's either Mournhold or Dawnstar. No, it was Shadowkey. Shadowkey had these ice imps or whatever they were called, and they were just lived in the caves. And a lot of people thought, well, these must be what happened to the Falmer as well, because Bethesda had no idea what to say happened to the Falmer. It's like the Dwemer, they still haven't told us what happened to them. Where are the dwarves, Burkus? Where are the dwarves?
At least they cleared it up a bit in the Dawngaurd DLC, although I'm still not fully sure what happened to like, what happened to the rest of them.
Well, the Snow Prince, I know, certainly died fighting the Nords, and he died on Solstheim. And in Bloodman, you could find his remains and his spear.
That's one of the loading screen things, isn't it? It tells you that.
I don't know
about the Snow. I think it's just in general it tells you, and just in Skyrim.
There's a book called The Fate of the Snow Prince. No, the Nords greatly respected him. I know I'm saying this like they're real people, but okay. Moving on.
High level draugrs weren't added.
No, makes sense though.
Some high level enemies are added, like they always add new higher level dragons and things. And
I think Bethesda have gone a bit dragon crazy.
Yeah,
I get a bit fed up with them. I wish.
There's no way to tell the difference basically between any of the dragons. Yeah. It's just it's meant to be the colours and things, but you can't actually tell whenever you're fighting them. It's just stat boost all around.
Yeah, that's just. I wasn't expecting that. I would hate the game, if after you finished it there were no dragons. But I wish that there were no dragons after you finish the game sometimes.
Yeah.
Because they just get annoying. You're in the middle of doing something, next thing you go, dragon.
But sometimes it just seems to tone down, like the amount of dragons that are flying around. I don't know if that's because you complete everything, that they reduce the spawn rate. I don't know. But I remember whenever I was playing main quest, constantly I just got spammed with them, like 2 or 3 walking to a place.
I reckon it might be actually the game detects how many dragons you actually take on, and if you take on less, they realise you really don't want to fight any of them, so it just generates less.
Yeah.
Whereas people that do fight them, they're like, oh, dragons.
And then sometimes whenever I actually want to fight a dragon, it just goes off into an awkward place or something. But you can usually find them at the places like the wee holes in the ground where they come out of. Their burial sites. The one usually spawns around there after a certain amount of time. Waygates were added in Dawngaurd DLC, but it's kind of pointless. It was just in one area.
How do they actually operate?
You walk into a gate, and then there's 3 sort of mirror, watery looking surfaces, and then they all fast travel to a different place. But the thing is, it was all just in the one area. It wasn't convenient in any way, really.
Yeah, so... But you see, that makes sense, because it's not very lore friendly to have fast traveling. I know it's an excuse for people like me who actually wouldn't fast travel
to do it.
Yeah, but I don't like it.
It kind of needed to have been in the game already from the very start. In order for it to work. Let's watch the next 5 points. The next thing that was shown in the DICE Gamejam video was new mounts.
Yeah, to a degree they were implemented.
Well, you could get one as a spell. Aardvark.
And
he was a bit purpley looking, but it wasn't the one shown in the video exactly.
But good?
Yeah, it's really handy. He's a fast horse, and you can get him anytime. Doesn't matter if you kill him.
See,
because I lost, what do you call the good one you get from the... Shadowmere. I lost him.
I was just gonna say, that Shadowmere rocks, but they should have made it more like Bethesda, like Oblivion. That whenever you lost him, he would live forever, and he would just go back to where you got him from the chance. So if he'd gone back to the Dark Brotherhood Sanctuary, every time it would have just been so much handier. Not that anyone could look after him.
And the regular horse buying system sucked, because I remember buying a horse one time. This was whenever I got one of the DLCs, or maybe it was just the title update with horse combat, which is the next thing. I bought a horse just to try it out, but I didn't get the horse. I just paid the 2,000 and got nothing.
Do you know what they should add?
What?
Horse armor.
Horse armor.
They should
400 MS points.
Oh, they should charge more than that. Horse armor is so useful, you know, especially when it's Shadowmere. Can't have him. Can you imagine if you summoned Aardvark and then you put a horse armor on him, and then your summon time ran out?
Did you ever see the game DLC Quest?
No.
It features horse armor in it, and it's the hugest part of the game, so it is. It's like the biggest part.
Well, that's because it's the most useful thing.
Yeah.
Horse armor, I understand why Bethesda charged so much for it.
Yeah.
Anyway...
Did you buy it?
No,
Kevin bought it.
You're forgetting, before I had a good enough PC, I played it on PlayStation 3. And we didn't get most of the DLCs. We only got Shivering Isles and Knights of the Nine. We didn't get any of the house DLCs, and we didn't get the...
That sounds a bit familiar. Sounds like Skyrim on PS3. Hopefully you'll be getting Dragonborn though.
Here's a simple fact. Bethesda cannot code for the PlayStation 3. They never have been able to. They never will be able to. We always have the buggiest versions of all their games, and as much as I love Bethesda, and as much as I love Sony, I think I'll never buy another Bethesda game on a PlayStation 3. But I will buy another Bethesda game, because I love them.
You get an Xbox 720, yeah?
No, I think I'll just get a better PC.
The next thing, mounted combat, where you get onto a horse, you press left trigger and you swing randomly to the left, and you press right trigger and you swing randomly to the right.
I think it's a good idea. And to be fair, Burkus, whenever I do use mounted combat, I use archery.
Yeah, but even then, it's not a good implementation of it. It was really inaccurate, was it not?
I use it to hunt deer, and I don't have a problem with it.
You see, I wouldn't go and hunt deer because I just think, what's the point?
It's role playing. Though it's more fun on the PC where you can set the time scale and make it, you know, a 1 minute to 1 minute time scale, and then the day actually lasts long.
And the deers move slow.
No,
because you've stretched out the time.
No, no. I cook, I clean.
The next thing, dragon mounts, which I haven't seen yet. They're in the Dragonborn DLC.
I could describe it to you, but I don't want to spoil it for Burkus.
Go ahead. In the Game Jam video, actually, they showed you could fly about a dragon anywhere you wanted and breathe fire. Well, it implied.
Yeah, they never said otherwise, and they knew that that's what the fans wanted. I don't see why, because it's not very lore friendly, but anyway, it's what the fans wanted.
Well, I suppose you did fly over on the dragon to the thing, but no reason why it couldn't be your mount.
The entire way they've implemented dragons in Skyrim isn't lore friendly, Burkus, so we're not gonna... Anyway, the dragon mounts, they suck. They genuinely suck. You can use a shout to tame a dragon, then you climb on it.
I think I got 2 of those levels for that shout.
Yeah. And then it flies about wherever it wants, and if you target someone and hit a trigger button, he will go and attack it.
That's not too bad. I thought it was just like a free ride in an area kind of thing.
But you don't fly him.
Yeah, I know.
And if you want to go anywhere else, you go to your map and you choose fast travel, and you click there, and then he'll go there, but you'll just then be flying about, and you can choose who he attacks. That's it. He flies.
Well, that's a bit better than I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be you just flew around in a circle wherever you tamed him.
No, but the thing is, if you get off him, sometimes he'll start attacking you.
Yeah.
So he doesn't stay tamed.
That'll be annoying. Next thing, Soulbug familiars, which work a bit like the enchantments you can get for your item, where it automatically fills a soul gem.
Yeah.
Except it's familiar.
Yeah, I like the idea of it. It means I can have different enchanted weapons.
Yeah.
And still collect souls.
I just used it to get up to 100 enchanting.
Because let's be honest, the only thing
for my steel or iron daggers.
the only thing I need soul bugs for is to enchant my enchanted weapons.
Yeah.
But do you have? They didn't implement them, did they?
No.
No.
I just used the weapon.
Yeah.
That's enchanted with capture soul.
Yeah.
They added a new shout though, where you could was it tear soul or something, where you grab the soul and it kills them as well.
That's from Dawngaurd. Yeah, pretty sure. Dawngaurd.
The next thing that was added were connect shouts.
Yeah.
I think this was really well implemented. The PDF containing all the shouts or all the commands is like over 300 words, and all the stuff in it's really useful, and some exclusive features that just can't be done with a controller or
keyboard.
Well, on keyboard mods.
But it's simpler. The thing is, Connect shouts is what made me jealous of the Xbox version. This is before any of the DLC came out. This is whenever I thought the DLC was still coming out for the PlayStation 3. And it made me want the Xbox version. I want it.
It's a bit annoying that you could sort things by weight and all in the inventory, yet it wasn't added. Like, are all the buttons used in the inventory? Like, RB and LB, I don't think they're used.
They used to have up the top of the Oblivion menu, you could go into your sub-menu, right? And then you could just choose up the top weight or anything. Yeah. And it would sort it, or value you could sort it by. And it makes sense.
You can tell whenever you've got so many items in a chest that it just starts getting laggy and stuff, so I'm surprised they did implement it for Connect, because I imagine it would be a very computational intensive thing to sort things by weight rather than just whatever way they were put into the thing.
Does the Connect have its own RAM?
Yeah, it has its own processor. It processes all the voice stuff and all.
So at least the voice stuff isn't using up any of the...
Might use up a wee tiny bit, but everything, like all the video stuff, is calculated by it.
Yeah.
Let's watch the next 5 features. The next feature that they showed off was screen space ambient occlusion, which it's a nice looking effect, but I think it's very expensive compared to other effects they could have added that would have made the game look nicer, but would have been cheap. Like, you remember Bloom in Oblivion?
Oh, I love Bloom.
Yeah, it's really cheap. It makes the game look better, but it kind of masks. It's kind of viewed as something just to mask over the graphics, and it can look bad.
Don't get me wrong. It made the NPCs look awful in Oblivion. They Bloom faces, they looked white.
Yeah.
But some of the actual environments were stunning in Oblivion because of Bloom. See, I know you think it's quite a small thing for the price of it.
Yeah.
And I do get what you're saying, especially because ZeniMax now are working such a tight business structure within their sub-companies. They couldn't do it, but the ZeniMax wouldn't let them do it.
Yeah.
But I think it is good because it adds more atmosphere to the game, and it would make me want to play more. I know that.
It's disappointing that it wasn't added to at least PC, I think, since they had the code for it, they did it, and I'm sure it could have been, fixed.
But
to work with it.
The thing is, PC players have all those EMV mods that just completely overhaul the way things look, and it's all the mods. PC's sorted because of mods. They have everything they need and everything they want.
Have you ever heard of HDR? High Dynamic Range? That's basically Bloom done right. It makes the colours and all better, but it doesn't like have the weird sort of glow effect.
Is that what my HDR camera does on my iPhone?
HDR, yeah. It'll make more vibrant colours.
It'll make Bloom.
Yeah. It basically, in photography, what they do is they take a shot at low exposure, normal exposure, high exposure, or more, like one really high, one really low, and then they combine them in something like Photoshop, or even the camera might even do it, and it creates one that's got high dynamic range.
Yeah.
It should look much better. The next thing, enhanced underwater visuals. Kind of added, whenever you come up from water, they did this in a title update. It's got a new transition compared to how it was whenever the game first came out. I don't think that's much. Yeah, it's not a big deal.
The best game that I've seen underwater visuals in, honestly, I give the game a lot of stick, but Fallout New Vegas. Whenever you had the breather on and you were going into the big lake that had the B-52 bomber, beautiful. I wanted to just stay underwater for most of that game because I found it absolutely stunning. Skyrim, you can't see 5 feet in front of you. It makes sense out in the sea because it's salt water and all, and it's hard to see. But the lakes and rivers, you should be able to see better.
Do you think that Fallout New Vegas had the best water out of any game?
Any game I've played.
There's a game called Hydrophobia. It was an arcade game that you could download, and it had the most realistic water, how it acted and pushed people back and things. The combat and all underwater was really realistic. You could break glass and it would all flow, but it looked shit.
Really?
Yeah, it looked like it's sort of like the flow-based water shader thing and just the regular thing, or just the regular water. It looks crap, the first one, but it works.
Yeah.
That's what Hydrophobia was like. And I was a bit disappointed since, the water works so well in the gameplay, but it was just like shit. Yeah. It was a really bad looking game.
And now we're getting into another little thing. Snow footprints.
Again, a small visual enhancement. Wasn't added, I don't think.
No, but I think it's worth it.
I wouldn't even have paid attention to it, because normally I'm in first person view.
But you notice it when other people are walking in the snow.
Yeah.
It's this... I like the small things that make a world feel real. I couldn't care if we had a Bethesda Tamriel game that had very few quests. As long as the world felt alive to me and felt real, I could play in it and I could love it. And
again, I think other effects could be added that would be cheaper and would make more of an impact. They would have to keep track of every single footprint, and it would be like whenever you shoot bullets at a wall in Call of Duty or something, eventually some of those bullet decals start disappearing.
Oh, of course it has to.
That kind of would look a bit crap if
but
there
it
was
makes
loads of
sense
enemies.
Snow.
It would be cool seeing a dragon footprint.
Oh, it'd be class. That's why they can't do it as well, because each animal would have to have its own footprints. But it'd be good for my love of hunting, because imagine I saw one of the saber-toothed tiger.
Have you seen
footprints?
The Assassin's Creed 3 snow?
No.
Whenever you're hunting, you actually trudge through it and all, and it leaves big long trails like of where you've went, and it looks pretty cool.
No, I have to say I haven't played Assassin's Creed 3.
Oh, I wonder why. The next thing, I can't pronounce this word, but it was basically soft bodies that moved around. Yeah. So, like, whenever a giant went through a tree, it would flop about and flop back up again.
Yeah, and the giant itself actually was fatty. Its fat sort of wobbled a bit.
Yeah.
And it's verlet surfaces for non-rigid objects, I think.
Yeah.
Or verlet, I don't know. But what else did they have?
They had cloth.
They had cloth, and they had a sort of flail.
Oh yeah, they had a flail or a ball and chain.
Yeah,
something like that.
And it looked like a good weapon, or you could even have a whip.
Yeah. Which,
I don't know, unless you're having slaves building things. It makes sense for if you were setting another game in Morrowind about 2 years ago.
Kaiser.
No,
Caesar.
But in Morrowind, the Argonians and Khajiit were pretty much slaves too.
Yeah, that's what they're kind of like that in Skyrim. They're just exiled.
But they're actually slaves. Yeah. Now the Argonians have taken over most of Morrowind, so sucks to be a dark elf, but you know.
The next thing, which kind of fitted in with an earlier topic, the water arrows, ice and fire arrows, was implemented in bolts.
Yeah.
But not arrows for bows, it's just the crossbow.
And there's electricity bolts?
Yeah, what do you call the energy thing in it? Is it lightning? Lightning bolts? I don't know.
Might be, yeah. It's... No, shock.
Shock.
It's just it made sense because in Oblivion you could enchant arrows. You can make them however you wanted.
Yeah.
But I suppose not this time.
Well, let's take a look at the next 5 features.
Okay.
Okay, the next 5 features, a Werebear.
Yep.
Which I got attacked by in Dragonborn. 3 or 4 of them came after me.
Yeah, it actually makes sense because in Bethesda's lore, there's everything. There's sharks. And there's
sharks?
Yeah, there's sharks. Men that turn into sharks at night. It's a fantastically messed up piece of Elder Scrolls lore.
You see, I thought it was a combination between a wolf and a bear.
No.
That sort of thing. I didn't know it was... So they're actually humans whenever that were attacking me, basically. Yeah. Or whatever race it is in Skyrim.
Yeah, that's the way they are. And they've also added the ability to summon werebears, which...
If you're a vampire in the game.
No, it's one that you get in...
Oh, so you can just get a spell? Oh,
yeah.
Sweet.
Whereas, I think it might even be a shout. I'm not sure.
Don't think it'll be a shout,
but you certainly have the ability.
Yeah. They added a perk tree for werewolves.
And
vampires.
Which we weren't expecting because in the game jam they just showed a lycanthropy perk tree.
I suppose it makes sense since they showed vampires next. Vampire feeding, which I suppose you really wanted for the role-playing aspect of it.
Yeah, but it wasn't the sort I was expecting because I'm more used to the Oblivion sort of vampires, which aren't anything like the, once more, unlore-friendly Vampire Lords, which we're getting on to now.
Vampire Lords, flying Vampire Lords were shown in the game jam, but you kind of just hover,
and that's
in the DLC.
Yeah, but that's what they did in the game jam if you watch it.
I thought they floated up like kind of above the people a wee bit.
They might have.
Perhaps limited eventually by height.
Yeah, thing is, like I said, the Vampire Lords aren't very lore friendly. The Volcair, which are the vampires in Dawngaurd, are meant to be vampires that live underneath the ice, and they're meant to be very similar to the Cyrodiil vampires in the fact that they are just humans that suck on people. But they're meant to live underneath the ice, and whenever people are walking across the ice tundras, they're actually meant to just their hands can pass through the ice, and they reach up, grab people, and pull them through.
So you see in Dawngaurd, it was that lake they showed, the icy lake they were meant to be under. What was it?
Well,
they have been?
I know they had a... Yeah, they would have, but there's also...
dragons that lived under there.
Yeah, but you know the way there's icy tundras all over the place. Like, up in the north in Hjalmarch.
Yeah, up north rightish on the map, is it?
Leftish.
But isn't there one going out to one of them Daedric Lords with the vault sort of thing where there's the book? Is there not kind of an icy
there might be
section up there?
But my point is they're meant to live underneath the ice and they're meant to pull people under. They're not meant to live in a castle.
Another feature of being a vampire lord was vampire minions,
which they sort of
imps.
half implemented because you can summon gargoyles. But
which I didn't know about. I don't think you could, but
yeah,
the gargoyle enemy is pretty cool.
But you joined the Dawngaurd anyway, didn't you?
Mm-hmm.
So that's why you don't know about it. Did you ever do a second playthrough because you meant it?
I started it, but I never did it. It's
the same quest.
I kind of hate having a split character.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I would like to be able to go. I know it sounds stupid, but I'd like to go do the vampire, my main
With
character.
Character, yeah. I understand what you mean.
And have werewolf and vampire.
Yeah, I understand what you mean. Let's watch the last feature.
Okay.
So, Marcus, did you know I saw a mud crab the other day?
Yeah, and it's had some improved animations, which unfortunately did not make the final cut.
Yeah, I really enjoy the new animations. I just wish there was more mud crabs in the game. They're an important part of Elder Scrolls.
In the original game, the
Arena?
no, in the original version of Skyrim, the mud crab animations, they were just so choppy, like it wasn't smooth, not 30 FPS, which is incredibly smooth, clearly.
And they sounded a lot like Zoidberg.
Possibly the best feature, the giant mud crab.
Yeah.
Why didn't it make the cut? Why isn't it there?
They should. They should put it in. In fact, I'd nearly say they should put in a lot of one-time kill.
That's what I was about to say. It should be a one-time boss.
Yeah, but they should put in more than one different sort of type of large legendary.
Alduin was one.
Yeah.
This could be another.
The famous giant mud crab.
A giant mammoth. Yeah. Mammoth armor.
Yeah. Why not? Why can't you have special things? It makes sense. I like it because there was giant mud crabs as jokes in I think both Morrowind and Oblivion. They weren't
not as giant.
No, nowhere near as giant. Yeah. Like anyway.
How could it be a joke if it wasn't that huge? What size are we talking here? Between the small mud crab, the medium mud crab, and the big one, what size?
But what if that's the mother of all mud crabs? It should be that size.
How would you fight that thing anyway?
like that, dodging.
But how would you kill
it? Through the mouth. Through the mouth, that's where the soft tissue is.
The weak spot.
Well,
shoot the dragon in the heart. The next thing we're going to talk about is what they did add in the DLCs.
Just new things that we weren't expecting. Mostly locations and enemies.
That they really didn't want to show off. The first thing they added
was in Dawngaurd, quite a number of new locations, like the Forgotten Vale, which I believe has Fort Dawngaurd in it, Park?
Forgotten Vale?
Is that not the...
What was the Forgotten Vale again? Which one was that?
I think that's the valley that Fort Dawngaard's located in.
Oh yeah, it's just tacked onto the edge of the map.
But it's beautiful.
I think it's just known on the map like as the Dawngaurd Fort.
Well, what is your opinion of Fort Dawngaurd?
It's pretty good. Upstairs and all feels kind of empty, I thought.
What about the architecture style? Different?
Yeah, at least it's unique, I think. Yeah. That's a good part about it. And there's a lot of good stuff in it, like the wool. What are they, wolves that you can get?
They're huskies.
Huskies. And you can get the trolls as well, they hire.
Yeah, and the crossbows, obviously. Another location added was Castle Volcair.
Yeah.
Which I once more have no opinion on because I haven't played the DLC. Burke?
It looked a bit more just like a regular castle in Skyrim. It was dark, filled with enemies.
Did you like the...
filled with enemies because I played down the Dawngaurd route.
Yeah, but whenever you were there as a non-hostile, did you find like just the certain things that they had, like the coffins to sleep in and all? Was that unique? Did you like it?
Yeah, the main, where the final battle takes place, that room's cool looking.
Really?
Whenever you first come there, they're all sitting around a table, kind of having dinner. Yeah. That looks awesome. Yeah. Whereas in in Dawngaurd is kind of like, this room has this person in it, this room has this person in it. We don't know each other.
By far the most different location added was the Soul Cairn.
Yeah, it was annoying, I'd say. It didn't have its own map, and it was really hard to navigate because everything looked the same. It looked awesome, and it had so much cool stuff on it.
Yeah.
But it would make you dizzy if you were to try and go around and get everything from it.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
I could only tolerate it for so long.
Yeah, I suppose it would be the same if they had implemented the Dark Dungeons we were talking about earlier.
Again, it was just tacked onto the map. It was just up north of Skyrim somewhere in the clouds, and you couldn't see anything.
It was technically a different Oblivion realm.
Yeah.
So it wasn't just tacked onto the map, it was in a different universe.
But whenever you opened up the map, that's where it was. It shouldn't have showed a waypoint at all, I think, or it should have showed a proper map for it.
What I like about it is it's not the first time that veterans of the series have been to the Soul Cairn.
Yeah.
If you played Battlespire, which was one of the spin-offs of the old... It was more like a spin-off of Daggerfall because it shared many of its aspects. But if you played that, you actually had to go to the Soul Cairn because... what do you call it? The Daedra...
what do you call it?
Dagon. Mairon's Dagon.
Yeah.
He actually used the Soul Cairn as a link to get into the Battlespire because the Battlespire existed close to Oblivion, but not technically in Oblivion. And Soul Cairn, I think, was the closest realm, so he used the Soul Cairn as a link to actually invade the Battlespire, which was the Imperial Mages College.
Was the Soul Cairn in Oblivion? Was it?
No, not in Oblivion.
Oh, okay. To me, it's kind of like new content since I haven't...
Oh, you mean the game?
Yeah.
No, it wasn't in the game Oblivion, but it's in Oblivion.
Yeah. It's in the realm.
Yeah, the realm of...
Another thing they added was...
legendary dragons.
Yeah, just loads of creatures in general. They added, what do you call them? Gargoyles.
Yeah.
Frost Giants, Chorus Hunters.
I'm quite a big fan of Frost Giants because they were part of the Blood Moon DLC for Morrowind again.
Yeah.
And we got more on that later.
A lot of the creatures are just reskins though, which is unfortunate. That there was, in Soul Cairn there was loads of new enemies, but it was just like skeleton, except Soul Cairn skeleton, whatever they called it. You could summon all those though, all the creatures in the Soul Cairn, which was a nice feature.
Especially if you summon the dragon, and then he would bring along his...
He'd bring along his minions. Yeah. He didn't really do much himself except summon.
Yeah, but it's great if you summon him and then summon your other dragon, Odahviing, because then you end up having two dragons fighting one dragon or something.
Hearthfire was a fairly small DLC, but they added in a few new things.
New activities, such as baking, which I actually fully enjoy. It's once again, I'm a role player, I like the small things. You can now bake all sorts of different things that just make sense.
You can beekeep, you can farm, and you can go fishing. To me, I just think it's pointless since all you do is press A on stuff, and I'm not really the role-playing type. I wouldn't go that deep into it, and I wouldn't be bothered with it since it doesn't have any rewards, really, for me.
Yeah, it makes sense. Like I said, it would be better if the time scale was different and you didn't feel like you were wasting one entire day beekeeping.
You could also get your own personal carriage driver in Hearthfire. Again, no reason for me to use it, but I think it looks kind of nice outside your house.
Yeah, there's a few mods for the PC that allow you to use carriages, like proper carriages where you sit in them and you get to see the entire world, a bit like Red Dead Redemption. And there's even a few that give you drivable carriages, and I'm a fan of them, not so much of a fan of the fast travelling through.
I loved the carriage in Red Dead Redemption. On multiplayer was like the best thing.
Yeah.
Did you ever play with the gun carriage?
Yeah.
In the DLC, I think it was in the free DLC, you could get on top and it had a mounted minigun on it, and there was, if you had enough people on at once, there was two carriages. I think that was probably the best moment for it.
I think Red Dead Redemption is a good example of creating a multiplayer world while still including the single player world, but not encroaching on your single player experience because of that.
Yeah. Although the multiplayer experience I didn't think was what I expected. I didn't think it was... You couldn't play it for that long. You could go through it all once, but it was too repetitive after that. Not as much freedom as in GTA. There wasn't even that many activities in GTA, but you could just keep playing it.
But the free roam activities in Red Dead Redemption I did enjoy. With multiplayer, I enjoyed, you know, the whole... You show up at a location and suddenly there's enough of you that there's bad guys and good guys and you have to work in a team to...
Yeah. Are you talking about... What about do you think about the competitive side of it? I didn't really play the competitive side that much. It was more the free roam and the forts and things that we did.
We're getting off topic again. Anyway.
Yeah, just a tiny bit. In Dragonborn, the Isle of Solstheim was added.
Yep, which is from Bloodmoon.
Yeah.
And
it's kind of in between Morrowind and Skyrim, like above them, north of them.
It used to be actually owned by Skyrim, but the High King gave it to the Dark Elves after the Red Mountain exploded, which you can see still smoke piling out of it whenever you're playing Dragonborn.
So, to me, the island's kind of not a part of Morrowind or a part of Skyrim. Talking to some of the characters there, it feels its own thing, really.
Yeah, but Morrowind doesn't have much left. Basically, just the north of Morrowind is what's still Dark Elf.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of, how do I put this, deja vu.
Yeah.
For a player like myself who has played Bloodmoon.
Again, to me, it's just new content, completely new. Yeah. I'd probably be a bit pissed off if I were you.
I'm not.
That it's just the same thing. Same island again.
To be honest, Burke, I want to play a game that has the entire of Cyrodiil. So, not Cyrodiil, Tamriel. So I want to see the same places again.
Yeah, but would you not want everything in one rather than just adding DLC here and there?
But it's not going to happen yet.
Yeah, we need more tech.
We need Elder Scrolls Online. No, Elder Scrolls Online will be alright, but it won't be what I want. So there's certain things like Fort Frostmoth, which was the Imperial Fort if you played Morrowind, which now is in ruins, and the Imperial Captain of the time that you personally knew is currently undead, and you can kill him and get his stuff, and it's just a good bit of throwback for the fans. Same with Castle Karstag. If you go there, you can summon Karstag back from the dead and fight him whenever you actually are the one who killed him 200 years ago. And then you get 3 summons of him after that, which no one's ever going to use.
Because you don't want to waste it. You'd load up a save and you'd spawn him in. How big is he, roughly? Because I haven't seen him yet.
Same as any other frost giant you fought in
Fair enough.
Dawngaurd. They've added the Apocrypha.
The Apocrypha?
Which is the Oblivion realm of Hermaeus Mora.
Oh yeah, it's really cool. Probably my favourite feature so far out of Dragonborn. I've went through a few of the stages. You get them by finding and opening up black books.
And it's got new enemies, which are the Seekers.
The Seekers, yeah, they're really cool. Yeah. They're like a big floating thing. They kind of remind me of the thing out of Halo ODST. The creature that has all the knowledge, basically. That's what they look like. They're fairly easy to fight.
They look like octopuses, I'm sorry. They look like floating octopus.
Basically, with a kind of shell on from it. There's also a new enemy that kind of rises up from the, I don't know, sort of black oil.
Yeah.
And it happens a few times, but it's kind of like a boss battle. Yeah. I don't know what it's called. Have you seen it before?
I have seen it. They're sort of like tentacle sort of things.
Yeah, they whip out at you, and I think that's really cool because it sort of stood out to me as this is a boss battle on par with legendary dragons and things, that they're different.
To be honest, one of the favourite new enemies in Dragonborn for me has to be the ash creatures. I can't remember their proper names. Ashspawn? Yeah, the Ashspawn, which I know are basically the version of, what do you call them? Draugr that Solstheim has. But I like them. I think it shows how the consequences of the Red Mountain. I didn't like the fact that the Red Mountain exploded, but I like the fact that they didn't just say, oh, it exploded and then everything was fine after a while.
What about the Ebony Warrior?
The Ebony Warrior is a fantastic new addition. What does he do, Burke?
He appears to you whenever you reach level 80 and challenges you to a fight, and then you can choose to attack him.
Yep, and
it's sort of like the one-time boss thing we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
He'd be a good example of it, and it is a pity there isn't more, like the giant mud crab.
There should be more. It's just something that gives a bit of uniqueness to certain fights rather than generic fighting. Not another Draugr overlord.
It would become more of like a roguelike game, or Diablo, where there's unique bosses at the end of stages and things.
RuneScape?
RuneScape, yeah. Skeletal Butler. Well, thank you all for watching. Join us again next time when we'll be talking about more Skyrim DLC.
Hopefully, if there is any more.
Bye.
Bye.